Like, I don't want you just to hear a story or hear a message, but I pray that by the time tonight and that God will begin to speak to your heart. How can you make America just? How can you bring about change in America?
As disciples and ambassadors of Christ, we are called to love and ascribe worth to every human being. No one is greater than or less than in the kingdom of God. Throughout history, we have seen certain groups of people devalued because of their skin color or ethnic orientation. We stand as a community to say that these attitudes and behaviors are wrong. We cannot silently ignore the injustice we see in our world. If we are truly loving as Christ did, we must see what is happening, listen to the voices of the oppressed, and be a force of change. Matthew 5:4 says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." In the words of writer Esau McCauley, to mourn is to care. To mourn is to be saddened by the state of the world. Mourning calls on us all to recognize our part in the suffering of others. A theology of mourning never allows us the privilege of apathy. Jesus willingly entered into pain and suffering for the sake of others. And tonight, we come with ears to listen and hearts to learn through the stories of our Black and brown brothers and sisters.
Hey everybody, how's it going? We're here on the south side of Chicago. I'm with my friend Chuck DeLoach, and we've been meeting up here in Chicago for probably 6 years now, and yeah, we've built a really cool friendship and relationship, and Chuck led mission teams with me from bringing a team from another university in Illinois, and so we meet up every year for spring break and do our Chicago mission trip together. And now he graduated with his master's and has been working at the church. And yeah, so we just wanted to talk about just all that's been happening in 2020 and honestly for a long time before that. Yeah, we just wanted to hear some of Chuck's heart and just partner with him as a community. So Chuck, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah.
And share a little bit?
I'm Charles Chuck DeLoach III. Some of you may be watching this may have remember me from previous years. Yes, I've led and I've been a part of the Chicago mission trip for almost 7 years. That's what I met Jenny every single year. I think secondly, we've been able to connect around this time of the year. I'm from Chicago Heights, Illinois. Currently reside in Chicago, of course, southeast side. I'm served as associate pastor at this church, but I'm also part of a community organizing group called Urban Reformers, as well as I work with youth guidance out of CPS, the fellowship initiative, where I'm a high school mentor for a sophomore male of color. So that's what I'm doing currently now. That's who I am in a nutshell.
Cool. So what brought you to working at Chicago City Life Center? What made you decide to do that?
That's a unique question. So it was about a year and a half ago, around 2019. In the summer, I would come up often and just help out at the church, just be around. And Pastor Moody, he offered me the idea. He said, "Man, I want you to come outside and serve with us." And so for about 2 months, I kind of just, I thought about it. I was prayed about it and things like that. And to be honest with you, it was tough for me because I'm more used to traditional ministries and things like that, and just traditional way. And so, but I knew God was kind of tugging me to this area in that sense and in that light. And so I just knew the Lord wanted me here, and He's confirmed that every single day I've been here.
So obviously, 2020 was a really crazy year, and actually last year when we were on this mission trip was kind of when everything blew up. And so, yeah, and then, just so much going on with the pandemic and then social unrest, and obviously in Minnesota there was just a lot of things that happened with George Floyd and just socially. And so I was just wondering how you feel about everything, or what your thoughts are, or what your initial reaction.
Yeah, no, 2020, I mean, it was a rough year for, I believe, everybody, right? Just all, I want to publicly send condolences to anybody that's lost anyone close due to COVID or just in 2020 in general. Yeah, this week was the last week where we were physically with Jenny and her crew and me and Olivet. We were all together here at the church, and just one by one things began to happen. We began to see the media. March Madness was done, and NBA is canceling the season, and school was extended to spring breaks, and so it was just it was crazy because at the beginning of the week everybody was without masks, having a good time, and within a day or two it just looked flipped. And so it's crazy how full circle we're able to kind of still connect this year, a year ago from today. But 2020 was rough as well for me because what we've seen in the media concerning George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. And as a black man, for me, 2020 was a year of rage, a year of outrage, I would say, a year of righteous anger. I had a lot of anger towards America concerning these events. You know, it was a struggle because I just could not fathom and understand how we could continue to allow these things to happen. A lot of people think that many of us got this uproar, many of us went out to protest, march because of just George Floyd. But George Floyd, if you will, was just like how you put it, he was the match that you just put on around a bunch of gasoline. You know, this is the anger, this is the cry since Emmett Till, and I've explained to the crew who Emmett Till was, and some of you who may know who Emmett Till is, and some of you who may not know who he is, you can look him up. He's a black boy, 1955, that was murdered in the South for allegedly whistling at a white woman.
I believe that the whole United States is mourning with me. And if the death of my son can mean something to the other unfortunate people all over the world, then for him to have died a hero would mean more to me than for him just to have died.
Emmett Till, 14, was kidnapped and killed allegedly for wolf whistling at the wife of accused Roy Bryant.
It's not just that they discover his body and that he's been killed. He has been brutally, brutally beaten. As a criminal defense attorney, when we look at crimes, we often try to put together a picture about what happened, and it takes a lot of hatred and a lot of rage to do the kind of violence that was done to Emmett Till. Being a black boy in the American South could be quite perilous. The allegation that Emmett Till was being social with a white woman was considered an affront, a threat to the racial order. And I think the shock of his death was compounded by the brutality of his death. Emmett's mother couldn't actually conform to the conventions of the time, and she did something really quite remarkable. She made the really unorthodox choice of having a funeral with an open casket that was going to be very widely publicized, that was going to be attended by the national press. She wanted civil rights leaders and political leaders to see what they did to her child. She invited David Jackson and Jet magazine to take pictures of this child's battered body. And these images were widely circulated. His face was grotesque. You could see eyes, but you couldn't really distinguish all of his facial features. That's how much violence he had been subjected to. Emmett's mother's presence in the photo is really important because she's really giving witness to victimization and violence. The other images that Emmett's mother provided just created this notion of a very respectable young boy who was trying to make the very best impression on everyone he met.
Nearly 200 of the town's 500 or 600 residents have packed into the courthouse to hear the day's proceedings.
Bryant and his half-brother, J.W. Milam, were acquitted by this jury. And subsequently, even though they admitted taking the boy from the house, they were freed of kidnap charges.
The inability to hold anyone accountable for his murder and the comfort with which the men who killed him were able to talk about the violence was just adding to the injury. They weren't just killing a boy. They're expressing something rooted in this decades of animosity and fear and anger. The brutal murder of Emmett Till really pushed Rosa Parks to a deeper level of activism. That was one of the motivating forces behind her choice to not give up her seat on that bus. And in many ways, it was an organizing and galvanizing moment for the civil rights movement in this country. These shootings of unarmed black boys and men have been going on for decades. It is a manifestation of this same presumption of dangerousness that killed Emmett Till, that killed thousands of people of color during the lynching era. We've never made progress in this country around important social justice issues until we've given marginal victims a face. That image still has resonance, it still has power, and I think it still expresses the pain and anguish of a huge part of our population that is still hoping for basic recognition of their humanity.
And I want you all to stand by me because it's going to be a fight. And if you will stand by me, I will stand by you because I am not afraid.
And so these things have been happening. These things have been going on. I think the biggest thing for me was the idea that so many of my white associates, friends, if you will, were justifying the death of George Floyd, were justifying the deaths of Breonna Taylor, were justifying the deaths of these people, not just them, but various others that they could not, they will always suggest or say, but why did he do that? But why did he resist? But why did he have a $20 counterfeit allegedly? But why did Philando Castile reach for his insurance? Why? There's no, I don't think there is no but, there is no, you can't justify a death like that. You can't justify a death, especially from an unarmed person who was running away. You can't justify that. And the fact that many people that I know who are white were trying to justify those deaths really, in a sense, show me how they really feel about me, in a sense, right? And so I had a lot of anger. I did not really want to talk to a lot of white people about these situations early because I felt like they were just coming in with their own agendas to try to persuade me into suggesting the alternative, and that just wasn't going to happen. I had a lot of people reach out to me about these things. I've been very prominent in speaking out about these things. I've led protests, I've led marches, part of a community organizing activist group, and I'm always out there trying to lift a voice. But not only this, just that, but being on the other side of things too, actually going around and planning and having those conversations with key people. 2020 was a year. It was a tough year. And so, to anybody who wants to know how I felt, I told them yesterday. I was literally sitting one time, and I was struggling with the idea: how can I be black and how can I be Christian at the same time? And that's what 2020 for me, in terms of the social unrest that we've seen, allowed me to be face to face with, because I've seen a lot of Christians who would justify these deaths. And as a black man, I would have so much hate and rage on how a Christian can justify a death of a person who is unarmed. But not only that, but of a person who is sleeping in their room, of a person who is a young boy that's trying to get home with some Skittles and Arizona tea in his hand. Like, how can you justify these things? And so a lot of righteous rage that led to me to ask God for wisdom and for God to soften my heart. Just because I'm a man of faith, and I believe that we ought to put our Christianity over our nationality, and that I am a black man, I am a Christian first, and I have to put my faith before my nationality. That doesn't suggest that I drop who I am. It just suggests that there is a higher purpose for me, and that I'm supposed to look past, not just look past, but I am supposed to reach for what Christ wants us to reach for, and that is ultimately reconciliation, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. And so how can I, in this moment, love my neighbor when sometimes my neighbor doesn't want to love me? How can I love my neighbor when my neighbor thinks it's okay for me, for a black man to have his knee, to have a cop's knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 40-something seconds, and justify that because all I can see is my father, my brother, my uncles in that position? How can I love my neighbor when they continue to suggest that that it's okay for cops to profile in black and brown communities? How can I love my neighbor? That's the question I will ask myself all the time, is that how can I really love my neighbor if they think it's okay for me to be in that position, perhaps, that they don't care anything about my worldview or the other worldviews around us. And so just continual prayer of the Lord softening my heart. That was my prayer of 2020, is Lord, soften my heart. And when I say soften my heart, it doesn't mean let them walk over me. It simply means don't allow myself to be pulled to hate. And so that's what it is. Dr. King said it himself. He said, just don't let nobody pull you as low as to hate them. And that's what they're doing, is that they're pulling you down. So I didn't allow the social unrest to pull me down enough to hate people, but I've allowed myself to have righteous anger, wisdom, and love in the same sentence. Right? It's crazy, but that's what the Lord can do. There's nothing wrong with being angry. That is a feeling that is given. It's what you do after the anger. And so I chose to put my efforts into protesting, into leading marches, into demanding certain things that's happened in my own community. And many of you, if you follow me on social media, you'll probably see what I've done or what I do. And so that's how I use my anger. That's how I use that in such a way that I will evict change, but then also I serve the community. And so people will understand that I'm not just out there protesting and marching because the glamour and things like that, but I'm actually out here day to day serving people without the cameras. I don't need the cameras to serve people. And so we just have to be able to understand that as well, that there's a lot of righteous anger out there. There's a lot of bad anger out there. But you got to understand, it's the cry from 90. It's a cry. It's an outpour. It is a spill. It is a splurge of what's been going on in this country that we, as this generation, Jenny, we're not going to allow that to happen. No more. We refuse to allow black and brown communities and people to be mistreated by the powers that be.
So we have kind of talked about this a little bit, but what could a group like ours in northern Minnesota, what can we do to not only partner with you, but just as the church in America? How could we just continue to move forward and not forget the past, but also just support?
So how you guys could part essentially is to continue to seek the opportunities to have these conversations. I told the group yesterday that there's a phrase, the revolution will not be televised. There's a phrase, that phrase, I don't know if you heard it, but that suggests that it's not something that you're going to have to just see in one instance. It's not something that's going to change because of a protest, because of a march. It's simply something in having conversations with people who look different from you, having these open discussions to be able to hit a heart. That's one. Two, try to put yourselves in the shoes of these people, of black and brown people, black and brown community. Try to put yourself in their shoes. Try to see what we're saying. Try to put yourself in that situation before making a judgment based off of where you came from. Try to put bias, prejudice, worldviews to the side and be able to hear people from a perspective of where they are, not where you are. Being able to seek opportunities to, what's the word I'm looking for? Collaborate with ministries, collaborate with, ministries that may look different, right? That may be some black ministries, Latino community ministries, organizations, Asian, however, seek to collaborate in those areas, seek to come alongside of them, but also seek to follow behind them as well. I think the biggest thing that a lot of people don't realize is that you got to understand that black and brown people have been are willing to follow behind white people, are willing to follow and go to churches and organizations that have white people as the leader. We've been doing it for the whole time in this country. But the true change is when those same people, those white people who are in organizations and things like that, are willing to follow behind black and brown people. That's dynamic. That's when you're saying that you're willing to follow behind the leadership of a black person, of a black man, of a black woman, Latino man, Latino woman. That speaks volume. It speaks a lot of volume. And being able to truly understand that within the next few years, 10 years or so, the world is going to continue, especially the U.S. of A, is going to continue to be to have this diverse culture, this diverse nature that we are growing in that aspect. I believe I've seen a statistic that they said the average child in 2050 will look like a mixed child. Will be mixed with various races, white, black, Latino white. Like the average child in 2050 will be that child. Will be that mixed child. And so just understanding where our world will be, right? We want to be in a position that, what Dr. King said, that one day our brothers and sisters, will rise up. By one day that my children will be not judged by the color of their skin, by the content of their character, simply, really, truly living that idea out. There's this thing where a lot of people we throw out this word equality, and I'm a person of equality. I believe all men are created equal, that we all are created in the image of God. But we have to throw out this word equity as well. What equity suggests to us is that not just giving people the same, right? If equality is distributed the same thing, that everybody gets the same piece. So if I have some chicken and I give you a wing, I give you a leg, I give you a thigh, she may be filled up. You know what I'm saying? It's still chicken. Everybody's getting one piece. It's equal. But I'm not having equity because my guy right here is a little bit bigger, so he's probably going to want to die because he needs to fill himself up. And I need to distribute this. You may just want a leg, right? And she may just want a wing. And so being able to distribute properly is equity. And so what we have to understand is that, yes, in this country, we need to understand equality is essential, but also equity needs to be required to be able to distribute correctly in these communities. And so it's not just about giving people the same seat. It's about giving them the right seat, the correct seat for them as well. We call that a sense of proximate justice. What that suggests is that we are to truly serve in our square feet. I say this: what good is it if my room is dirty and I go to my friend's house and clean their room? It makes no sense for me to go help my friend clean their room and my room is dirty. Do what you can at where you are, right? Figure out where you are, figure out the scope of where you are, figure out who are the leaders in your community, find the organizations that are speaking on these things, find out who is speaking on behalf and fighting for these injustices and things like that. Find out who these people are, collaborate with them, donate to them, put your money where your mouth is. That's what you can do, is really always seek those opportunities to submerge yourself in those societies. Pretty much that's really it. Like, the more you submerge yourself in those societies, the more we as Black people will see how much you're willing to be a part of the change, be a part of the push for a better place, for a world of equity and equality. So yeah.
Yeah, just before we wrap up, is there anything else that is on your heart that you want to share?
Yeah, so whoever's watching this video, once, thank you, Jenny, so much for the opportunity and just your heart. And Jenny's reached out to me many times over the summer, and I've been graciously able to speak with her about these things, and because I know Jenny's heart. So I know Jenny, I know how she feels, and so it was definitely a smooth. So I just want to thank you for that as well. But to anybody who's watching this, taking the time to watch this, I know I said a mouthful, I know I said a lot, but I suggest that you do certain things, such as maybe perhaps watch movies, or look these things up that I said, look these ideas that I said, look up these cases, look up the civil rights movement, look up Martin Luther King, look up Medgar Evers, look up the Fred Hampton Chicago guy. There's a movie that just came out about him. Watch these movies, put yourself in these shoes. American Skin is a good one that you all watched. Just Mercy and Judas and the Black Messiah are 3 good movies that you can watch to truly kind of understand the idea of race in this country. And I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen. I hope that you heard me purely. I hope I didn't say too much, but I hope you were able to get a glimpse of how many of the Black people in this nation feel about it. But not only that, many of the Christians who are Black feel. Don't forget, if you are a Christian, we are all created in the image of God, and that there is no Greek, Jew, or Gentile. We are all on the same ground, same level. And we got to understand that our prejudices, our worldviews need to be left at the door when we walk into this Christianity thing, when we enter the kingdom of God, that we are all truly one under the blood of Jesus Christ. And that's my motivation at the end of the day. No matter how much anger I get, no matter how much I may not want to reconcile, I'm always pulled to the cross and pulled to be able to have these conversations, because I do believe that the kingdom of God is the only thing that's going to change this world and shift the atmosphere. And that's what we have to do. It starts with the Christians before anybody else can reconcile. We as Christians have to reconcile. So seek to reconcile with your Christians who look different than you, who are white, Black, or Latino, across the board. Seek to reconcile. Seek to connect and collaborate with people who are called by the name of the Lord Jesus and who look different than you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your heart, and thank you for just not growing weary of just like having these conversations over and over again. And we are just really grateful, and I'm grateful for your graciousness to always be willing and open, and we just appreciate and love you so much. So thanks for sharing.
No problem.
That's a wrap.
Hey. See, there you go. See, this was cool.
Great.
That's so good. Oh, thank you.